Ukraine has woken up to another nightmare. Putin's men unleash hypersonic hell. Kinzhal missiles scream through the sky. Russian military claims 1 large-scale and 6 group strikes inside Ukraine in the past week. As Ukraine is burning, missiles are screaming, and diplomacy is shaking, the fragile peace talks are now on the brink of collapse. The Russian military went ballistic after Ukraine's recent attacks on civilian targets inside Russia. On Friday, the Russian forces said they punished Ukraine in a wave of chilling attacks. Russia said it conducted 1 large-scale and 6 group strikes inside Ukraine over the past week in response to Kyiv's terrorist attacks. Russia confirmed using high-precision munitions, including Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, during the strikes. The target was critical for Zelensky in his war efforts. Russia said it destroyed production facilities for Ukrainian long-range drones, as well as transportation and port infrastructure used by Kyiv's forces, arms and fuel depots, and temporary deployment sites of military units and foreign mercenaries. This is Ukraine's second-largest city, Kyiv. It is now reduced to rubble after Russia's missile attack on Friday. Drone footage showed the devastation. Zelensky said Russia struck a residential area with 2 missiles. Kharkiv Regional Administration head Oleg Sinyahubov said at least 25 people were injured in the attack.
According to our information, there may be more people under the rubble. The elimination of consequences is ongoing. Everyone works in the field. Right now, the main thing is to save as many people as possible.
Before Kharkiv, Russian forces rained fire on Zaporizhia. Ukrainian authorities said Russia carried out one of the most massive drone attacks at Zaporizhia. At least 9 drones struck the city, damaging dozens of residential buildings and other civilian infrastructure. Ukrainian Air Force said Russia fired 116 long-range drones and intercepted 86, and 27 struck their targets. Russia's powerful strikes came after Ukraine's not 1 but 2 alleged attempts to assassinate the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. On December 28, 29th, the Ukrainian military launched 91 long-range attack drones to target the residence of Putin in the Novgorod region. Russian authorities, in fact, handed over physical proof of Ukraine's role after the CIA denied Kyiv's role in the attack. A senior Russian military chief handed to a U.S. military attaché parts of Ukrainian drone containing data and the target. As per Russia, the controlling mechanism had decrypted flight plan data. On New Year's Eve, multiple Ukrainian long-range drones were intercepted heading toward the Russian capital, Moscow, just before Putin's traditional New Year's address.
You have taken the responsibility to fight for your native land, for truth and justice. Millions of people across Russia, I assure you, are thinking of you on this New Year's Eve, empathizing with you, and placing their hopes in you. We are united in sincere, selfless, and devoted love for Russia. I congratulate all our fighters and commanders on the coming new year. We believe in you and in our victory.
The message between Russia and Ukraine is no longer subtle. The targets are no longer symbolic. Ukraine repeatedly appears to be aiming straight at the very top of the Russian state, President Vladimir Putin himself. Again and again and again. Many now believe this is no coincidence. As truce talks linger in the background and diplomatic channels strain under the weight of war, Kyiv's strategy may be shifting towards something far more dangerous: provocation, a calculated gamble. one that could force Moscow into a dramatic response and, in doing so, unite the West more firmly behind Ukraine's cause. Tonight, the spotlight is once again on Moscow. Russian air defense systems shot down 2 Ukrainian drones flying toward the Russian capital. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin confirmed the interceptions, saying the Ministry of Defense's air defense forces successfully repelled the attack. One drone was destroyed as it approached the city. Another was shot down around 11:30 p.m. Moscow time. The capital briefly held its breath. Temporary restrictions were imposed at Domodedovo Airport, halting takeoffs and landings as emergency protocols kicked in. Russian officials insist there was no damage, no casualties. But the message was clear. Moscow was the target, again. And this was not an isolated incident. Just days earlier, on New Year's Eve, multiple long-range Ukrainian drones were intercepted as they headed straight toward the Russian capital, at one of the most symbolic moments of the year. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin confirmed the first interception at 11:55 p.m., mere minutes before President Vladimir Putin began his traditional New Year address to the nation. As Russians prepared to welcome the new year, air defense systems were already active. Another drone was shot down shortly after midnight as the clock struck 20:26. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., 7 more drones were intercepted, extending the overnight alert across the city. Emergency services rushed to crash sites. Flights were suspended again at Domodedovo Airport. Officials reported no casualties, no damage, but the timing could not have been more deliberate. An attack unfolding as Putin spoke to the nation, projecting strength, unity, and resolve, while drones approached the skies above Moscow. And the pressure did not stop there. Russian authorities say air defenses downed at least 21 hostile UAVs in another attempted drone raid on the Moscow region. That incident left a mark. A 57-year-old man suffered shrapnel wounds to his back and arm. On December 29th, Russia alleged that Ukrainian drones attempted to strike a residence used by President Vladimir Putin himself, near Valday in northwestern Russia, a location long associated with the Russian leader, a heavily secured area, a place rarely spoken of in public. If true, this would represent a dramatic escalation, one that could reshape the war overnight. An attempted strike on the Russian president's residence would cross a line many believed Ukraine would never approach. But Moscow did not stop at accusations. Russian authorities say they handed physical evidence to the United States, proof, they claim, of Ukraine's direct involvement in the alleged drone strike. On January 1, 2026, Russia announced that a senior military official had delivered fragments of a Ukrainian drone to a U.S. military attaché. A video released by the Russian Defense Ministry shows Admiral Igor Kostyukov, head of Russia's military intelligence agency, handing over what he described as a key component recovered from the wreckage. According to Russia, the device contained decrypted flight plan data. The target, they claim, was unmistakable, a specific facility within Putin's Novgorod residence. The footage shows a destroyed drone, a visible chip installed within it, and fragments of a box wrapped in gold-colored material. Russian officials allege the drones were launched from 4 separate Ukrainian regions, part of a coordinated and deeply planned operation.
This is a rare, unique case where we have an unexploded warhead filled with high explosive elements weighing 6 kilograms. The enemy's attack, as shown on the map, was carried out in several directions toward the Russian presidential residence, over the territory of the Bryansk, Smolensk, Tver, and Novgorod regions, using 91 unmanned aerial vehicles. The strike formation, the number of airborne weapons used, and their operations from the southern, southwestern, and western directions clearly aimed at the area of the Russian president's residence in the Novgorod region clearly confirm that the terrorist attack of the Kyiv regime was purposeful, thoroughly planned, and had an in-depth nature.
The claim was explosive, and yet Kyiv has remained silent. So what is really happening here? Many analysts believe Ukraine may be attempting something far riskier than battlefield gains. By repeatedly pushing attacks toward Moscow and, allegedly, towards Putin himself, Kyiv may be trying to provoke a dramatic overreaction. A response so severe, so destabilizing, that it would force Western powers to close ranks more tightly behind Ukraine's cause. A move that could shift hesitation into commitment. Because history shows that wars often pivot not on territory, but on moments. Moments that redefine the narrative. Moments that make neutrality impossible. For Moscow, the danger is obvious. A miscalculation could widen the conflict. Escalation could spiral beyond control. And any confirmed attempt on Putin's life would be treated not as an act of war, but as a direct challenge to the Russian state itself. Russia insists that its own strikes remain limited, claiming its forces target only Ukrainian military facilities and defense industrial sites using precision-guided weapons. Ukraine disputes that narrative. The truth, as always, lies buried beneath competing claims, counterclaims, and propaganda. But one thing is undeniable. The war is no longer confined to front lines. The skies over Moscow are now part of the battlefield. And with each drone interception, with each alleged assassination attempt, the stakes rise higher. This is no longer just a fight for territory. It is a fight for narrative, legitimacy, and survival. And if the goal is provocation, then the world may soon find out just how far both sides are willing to go.